Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yadutaham Tvaya Prishto Vairajat Purushad Idam Yatashi Tad Upakyaste Prashnan Anyapscha Kritsnasha. O King, your questions as to how the universe became manifested from the gigantic form of the personality of Godhead, as well as other questions, I shall answer in detail by explanation of the 4 verses already mentioned. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. As stated in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, this great transcendental literature is the ripened fruit of the tree of Vedic knowledge, and therefore all questions that can be humanly possible regarding the universal affairs, beginning from its creation, are all answered in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The answers depend only on the qualification of the person who explains them. The 10 divisions of Srimad Bhagavatam, as explained by the great speaker, Srila Shukadev Goswami, are the limitation of all questions, and intelligent persons will derive all intellectual benefits from them by proper utilization. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 2nd canto, 9th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Answers by Citing the Lord's Version. I'm very grateful to each of you for being here today at the lotus feet of Sri Sri Radha Gopinath and Srila Prabhupada. We have gathered together, ideally in the same spirit as what is taking place in this pastime that we are reading today. Here we find Sukadev Goswami speaking to Maharaj Pariksit and to the entire assembly of sages, rishis, yogis, and other such fortunate souls who have placed as the utmost priority of their life to hear from Sukadev Goswami. In Sukatala, the place where Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken, some of you may have been there. On the bank of Mother Ganga, there's a banyan tree. And even today, it's quite a remote place. Of course, I haven't been there in several years, and the nature of India is some places aren't remote anymore the way they were some years ago. But it was away from the city. It was a yatra. As far as we know, the sages and rishis, and especially Pariksit Maharaj, none of them lived there. It was much greater distance than from Radha Gopinath temple, coming from Borivali or Mira Road. You know, some people came from other planets because they were so eager to hear Srimad Bhagavatam class. What to speak of Vishwamitra, Vashishta, where they came from, we don't even know. Narada Muni was there. Where he came from. But Pariksit Maharaj was living in his Hastinapur as the emperor. And when he realized that he was going to die very soon, 7 days, he made this pilgrimage to the bank of Mother Ganga as the priority of his life. He was the grandson of Arjuna, grandnephew of Yudhishthira Maharaj, Bhima, Nakula Sahadev, grandson of Kunti Devi. He was a very special person. And when the Pandavas retired, they considered him the most qualified person in the entire planet to be the emperor. He was a Raja Rishi. He was an enlightened, great, pure devotee of the Lord who was willing to accept this role of ruling a world in the service of Krishna and his gurus. And the nature of his own heart is manifesting here. Such a ruler, living in beautiful palace with queen and children. He was the commander-in-chief of the armies. He was unparalleled in the planet as far as his rulership. But it was all as a humble servant of the Lord. When he was called to perform actually a higher service. And what does it mean by a higher service? In this sense, it means the service required at the time. Because obviously Pariksit Maharaj was trying to do the highest service in whatever he was, at every moment of his life. And it was the higher service to be the king. Because higher service means what Krishna wants, what pleases him. But when he was called to do something higher, he went and bowed himself down to all the great sadhus and sages. And with the blessings of all of them, he bowed his head and surrendered his body, mind, words, and life to Sukadev Goswami, who was then only a 16-year-old boy. Is there any devotees here that are 16 years old now? Please, you're 16? Please stand up. Thank you. You can sit now. And we see people here who are in their 80s. They are like grandparents. And Narada Muni, he was born at the beginning of creation. And Vashishta and Gautam Rishi and Parvat Muni, these are, who knows how old they are. But yet they were all sitting at the feet of a 16-year-old boy. And they all understood that this is their higher duty. Not just Pariksit, all of them. They were all eager to hear and eager to give their support to Pariksit Maharaj by their total absorption and enthusiasm to hear. Now, is it that these great sages, Vyasadeva was there. Whatever Sukadeva Goswami was speaking, he learned from Vyasadeva. Whatever Vyasadeva was speaking, he learned from Narada Muni, his guru. And yet they're sitting in total absorption listening. For several reasons. One is when we're attentive and we're sincerely trying to be absorbed, then we express the energy that encourages and enthuses others to be absorbed. In this sense, preaching is not only speaking, but preaching is enthusiastically hearing. I remember when Srila Prabhupada would sometimes come to a temple and the new devotees and the general devotees would be sitting in rapt attention, but when they would see the senior devotees sitting in rapt attention, it gave them so much enthusiasm. Because what we do, and actually when the new devotees are in rapt attention, it gives the senior devotees enthusiasm. Because the spirit of hearing attentively, the spirit of making the message of the personality of Godhead our priority over everything else at this moment, connects us with Krishna. Not only is the speaker like an antenna radiating Krishna's message, but every person who's hearing and who's tuned into the message is also radiating the message of how much it's needed to hear Krishna's message. So Sukadeva Goswami, in this particular chapter, chapter 9 of the second canto, is at the beginning stages of describing his message to Pariksit Maharaj. Pariksit Maharaj is asking questions because the more we know, the more we realize we do not know. That is a spiritual understanding. In material life, we can be under the misconception that the more we know more than others. But Krishna is unlimited. Srila Prabhupada actually would often quote Sir Isaac Newton. I believe he said that because people thought he was learned, he said, I am just collecting grains of sand on the shore of the ocean. And compared to knowing about Krishna, a few grains of sand is a lot. But Krishna is an unlimited ocean of attributes and glories and knowledge. Arjuna was listening to Bhagavad Gita, And he was understanding what Krishna was saying. And then Krishna showed him Virat Rupa, the universal form. And Arjuna realized, how could anyone know Krishna? He already knew that, but it was, for our sake, so much more obvious. And we get examples given by our acharyas. Vrindavan Das Thakur tells, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, that even if Ganesh was to write for an entire lifetime of Brahma, he could never record not the amount of pastimes Lord Chaitanya would do in a moment. And even if Ananta Shesha, with so many heads, and he's Balaram, what to speak of us speaking and thinking we've covered all topics. Even Lord Balaram himself, the source of Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, Kshirodakshay Vishnu, who's in everyone's heart, who's appearing as Ananta Shesha, he's supporting all the worlds of the universe. With all of his mouths, if he were to continuously chant Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, he couldn't appropriately explain the pastimes he does in a moment. This may sound like an exaggeration, but it's not at all an exaggeration because Krishna is actually unlimited. We like to confine the concept of unlimited within our conception. That beautiful example Srila Prabhupada has given of the frog that's living in the well. And another frog comes and jumps in the well and says, I just saw the Atlantic Ocean. And the frog was born and raised in the well. The first one, he said, is there as much water as this, my well? He said, no, it's much more. He said, double? No, much bigger, triple. If all you know in your entire life from your birth is the water in the well, how can you conceive of the Atlantic Ocean? But compared to the Garbhodak Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean is not even a drop. And the Garbhodak Ocean is just within this little universe. Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the teachings to Sanatana Goswami, Lord Chaitanya describes how Brahma came to meet Krishna in Dwarka. And Krishna wanted to teach the world through his devotee. At the same time, teach his devotee. It's the same Brahma we're reading about today. Even though he knew so much, still, how much? So the doorkeeper, he says, who are you? He says, I am Brahma. I've been called to meet Krishna, Dwarkadish. So he said, wait here. The doorkeeper came back. He wants to know which Brahma. Brahma didn't know there were other Brahmas. He's the creator of the entire universe. Which of us can understand the entire universe? With all our science and technologies, we're making a lot of advancement comparative to, our conditioned existence. We're thinking so many years ago there was little telephones that you dialed, and now wherever you are, even in Srimad Bhagavatam class. It's like a standard introduction to Srimad Bhagavatam class for everyone to turn off their cell phones. When I first joined this movement, I never heard an announcement like that. Where I was living among about 300 devotees, there was only one telephone in the whole community. And practically no one had access to it. Now everyone has their own cell telephone. In fact, every person I know that was living in the community at that time, they have their own telephones. So things are changing. Science, there's various types of satellites and technologies and wireless, and we're all wrapped up in the wireless technology. But how much do we know about Swargaloka, Tapaloka, Maharloka, Satyaloka? How much do we even know about Patavaloka? This little earth is just a very little, it's a speck within the universe. It's unbelievable what is within this universe. It's front page of all, the news agencies if they see a puddle of water on another planet through their microscopes. Yes? But what's actually happening in all these places? So we don't know. Brahma does know. He actually, on behalf of Krishna, created it all. And he's the father of it all. And he's seen it all. This whole universe from its beginning, its conception. He was alive, he's still alive, and he'll be here until the end. So he comes to Krishna's door, and Krishna says, which Brahma? Brahma. Now, who in this universe has 4 heads? He said the four-headed Brahma, because that's his uniqueness. So the doorkeeper came in and said, yes, Krishna said you could come. And then Krishna called for other Brahmas. And there were thousands and thousands and thousands of Brahmas. And our universe is actually the smallest. According to the size of the universe, Brahma has more heads. So there were Brahmas with 8 heads and 16 heads and 32 heads and 64 heads. Thousands, even millions. Now we're thinking, how is that possible? And still be beautiful. It's not that these other Brahmas look like monsters. They're actually the most beautiful person in the universe. It means that creation is very inconceivable. And the amazing thing that Brahma saw is even though they were all gathered together, each of these enormous Brahmas, with huge powers and responsibility, and what to speak of knowledge, each one thought they were the only one there with Krishna. They didn't see the others. Only our little Brahma saw everybody. everyone else was thinking, they were all talking to Krishna simultaneously, and he was saying, how is the universe? And, and they were giving reports to him. And each one was thinking, he called only me. But our personal Brahma, he was seeing it all. And he realized, I'm insignificant. This is achintya shakti. And knowing all these things is not even a drop of the blessing of knowledge as understanding a grain of dust in Vrindavan. What to speak of Krishna's pastimes? If we're thinking that, I know that Krishna likes gopis, and I've read some of the things they do, I know more than you. That means you really don't know. Because we're reading the second canto. The loving pastimes of Krishna with the Brijbasis is the 10th canto. Sukadeva Goswami is describing the limitless nature of God as the creator of the universe and the limitless nature of his representative, Brahma, in comparison. And Pariksit Maharaj, Vrindavan wasn't far from Hastinapur. He obviously had heard Krishna's pastimes in Dwarka, Hastinapur, Vrindavan. But still, he's very eager to hear all these other subjects. And Sukadeva Goswami, who is in the spiritual world, our acharyas describe, he's Radharani, Srimati Radharani's pet parrot. That means he has access to pastimes. In this world, we say a bird's eye view. That means he was right there. All the different leelas, he was Radharani's pet. So he knew. And how before approaching Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, he's describing in the second, third, fourth, various incarnations, creation. And who's more qualified than Lord Brahma? In these chapters, how this Srimad Bhagavatam begins, Sukadeva Goswami, where this information is coming from. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells, Evam parampara praptam, that we must receive this in parampara. And this is the context in which Sukadeva Goswami is presenting the introduction to Krishna. It's Narayan, or Krishna's expansion of Narayan, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. It's his desire for a creation within the universe. As Karunadakshaya Vishnu, he's already manifested the cosmic within the Mahatattva, all the universes within the cosmic manifestation. And then he enters each universe. And this lotus flowers springs Padmanabha from his navel. And on top of this beautifully sprouted lotus flower, Krishna gives birth to Atmabhu, Brahma. And Brahma's alone. It's quite dark. He doesn't really know where he is. Somehow or other inherently knows he's supposed to create the universe. But he doesn't know how. He really doesn't know who he is. And he's trying to understand. He climbs down the lotus stem and he sees the ocean there, and that's very frightening actually. So he climbs back up and he sits on the lotus. And he was sincere. He was seeking. He wanted to know. And ultimately, he wanted to serve. And he heard these two syllables, tapa. And he was trying to find out who spoke it, but he couldn't find the source of the sound vibration. And in the context of Srimad Bhagavatam, tapa doesn't just mean austerity or tapasya. It means devotional service. Because from the context of bhakti, the only real austerity is to please Krishna. When Yudhisthira Maharaj and Pariksit Maharaj were kings, that was tapasya. They were putting everything else aside to do what pleased Krishna. And when Pariksit Maharaj was called upon to renounce the world, just wearing a kopan and go to the Ganga and fast until death, that was tapasya, because according to time, place, and circumstance, that's what pleased Krishna. Brahma wanted to serve. He wanted to carry out the will of Krishna. That was his tapasya. And how to do that? So he sat there and he meditated with this willingness to serve, because he knew, I can't do it without Krishna's grace. So our tapasya is we chant our japa, we follow our four regulative principles, we try to associate with devotees, we try to cultivate knowledge according to our capacity, from Srila Prabhupada's books, from Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bhagavad Gita, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. To please Krishna. If Krishna is pleased, we get the understanding of what it means. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam tatami buddhi yogam tam yena mamupayantite. When we worship Krishna with love, Krishna reveals the understanding by how we know him. Srila Prabhupada explains in a purport that each and every one of us, when we're sincerely practicing devotional service, we are sitting on that lotus flower where Brahma was. That lotus flower represents the seat of devotional, the seat where a devotee is performing devotional service. He did for 1,000 celestial years. You know, I may have been practicing devotional service now for 54 years. And that made me, at least in this lifetime, more than most of you. But what is the significance? Brahma performed 1,000 years of the demigods. I think 1 year of the demigod is 6 times 30 times 12 times 1,000. It's a long time. And it just doesn't describe, what did he have to eat up there in that lotus flower? It's not that, he had disciples coming and bringing him nice prasad every day. He was fasting. Doesn't describe he was sleeping. 1,000 celestial years he was preparing himself, meditating with eagerness. Never lost faith or enthusiasm. What to speak of little you and me? This is how Brahma valued the opportunity he had in his life to please Krishna, to serve Krishna. And after 1,000 celestial years, and it's not that he would have ever given up. If it was 10,000 celestial years, he would have just done it, because there's no limits to the value of the darshan of Krishna. The spiritual world of Vaikuntha was revealed to him on that lotus flower. He saw Lakshmi. He saw the associates of Lord Narayan. And then Lord Narayan personally appeared and approached Brahma and shook his hands and made friends with him. Krishna came as Brahma's friend. Suhridam sarvabhutanam. Krishna is within everyone's heart. And he reveals in Bhagavad Gita, I am everyone's ever well-wishing friend. And if you don't like someone, which is quite natural in this world, because a lot of people don't like you. So it's not just one way. We don't like people, people don't like us. But Krishna is in everyone's heart as everyone's well-wishing friend. When Lord Chaitanya sent Brahma, who incarnated as Srila Haridas Thakur, and Lord Sri Balaramji, who incarnated as Nityananda Prabhu, Lord Chaitanya said, go to everyone. Do not discriminate who's fit or unfit. Do not discriminate which is an auspicious or inauspicious time or place or circumstance. Just ask everyone to chant the names of Krishna and worship Krishna and make Krishna their life and soul. Lord Chaitanya knows past, present, and future. He was sending them to Jagai and Madhai. Lord Nityananda Prabhu, even though they actually were trying to kill him, still he was their well-wishing friend. On behalf of Lord Chaitanya, who's the ever well-wishing friend of everyone. And as we make spiritual progress, we learn to see the world from this perspective. That whether they like me or whether I like them, that's just an external, temporary situation of this world. But the reality is that Krishna's my friend. And Krishna's their friend. And Krishna's in my heart, and Krishna's in their heart. When Srila Prabhupada wrote his letters, Your Ever Well-Wisher, in one sense what he's saying is he's the representative of Krishna, who's actually everybody's well-wisher. And these beautiful lessons that Krishna spoke to Brahma on the lotus flower. He says, in the beginning, there was only me. Nothing else existed. The elements of material existence did not exist. There was only me. And at this time, there's only me. And after the annihilation of the entire universe, there's only me. And within the limitless varieties of the spiritual and material worlds, especially the material world, which we are conscious of, to see anything as separate from Krishna, as not coming from Krishna, as not Krishna, is Maya or illusion. Because everything that exists is the energy emanating from Krishna. In the nutshell verses of Bhagavad Gita, aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvata. It is in principle saying the same thing. I am the source of all material and spiritual worlds. Everything emanates from me. That is so profound and so deep. Everything emanates from Krishna. And Krishna is non-different from the emanations. Rasya Shaktir Vivadaiva Shruyate. Krishna has multifarious energies. Predominantly, there's the external material energy, the internal spiritual energy, and the tatashta shakti, the marginal energy, the jiva. But all these energies are expansions of Krishna. And this was the basic, and this was also the first teaching of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sanatana Goswami. Jivera Swarupoi Krishnera Nityadas. Krishnera Tatashta Shakti, Veda Veda Prakash. This is the foundational principle of all the knowledge, of all the shastras actually. And so much is included here. The nature of the jiva, the soul, is we are eternally servants of Krishna. We're the marginal energy of Krishna. And we're simultaneously one and different than Krishna. So everything that exists is Krishna's energy. And Krishna's explaining in this chapter, simultaneously, all the different varieties of material nature are coming into this creation. And at the same time, they remain outside of it. And similarly, the Supreme Absolute Truth, the personality of Godhead, when he comes into this world in his various incarnations and manifestations and expansions and energies, he's simultaneously in it and not in it. It's beyond it. So to think that anything is separate from Krishna is Maya. But yet at the same time, everything is not Krishna. It's the energy of Krishna. But the energy of Krishna is Krishna. And if you think you understand, that means you don't understand achintya. That this is inconceivable. And then if we think we know a lot, we become like that Brahma with 4 heads that saw so many other Brahmas and thinking I'm insignificant. The more we appreciate our insignificance in relationship to the inconceivable glory of Krishna's greatness, the more we're happy. Without seeing in relation to Krishna's greatness, if we feel insignificant, it's really a miserable state. And because it's such a miserable state, the ego wants to feel very significant, better than so many others. But when we realize how great is Krishna, we're so happy just being a part of Krishna. There's no need to feel better than anyone else. In fact, when we really understand Krishna, we understand Krishna's in his energy and Krishna's in the heart of every living being. Then we feel humble before everyone. That's advancement in spiritual life. When we read about the great acharyas and their quality of humility, that's where it's coming from. They're actually experiencing Krishna. And Krishna tells Brahma that one who understands this, that Krishna is forever. There's only Krishna. And then Krishna manifests the material energy and spiritual energies, and nothing is separate from Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada emphasized the difference between the personal philosophy and impersonal philosophy. The impersonal philosophy feels Maya means nothing exists except Brahman. Therefore, everything that is not is illusion. And a Vaishnava understands that all the energies of Krishna are Krishna's energy, and they are existing, but they are simultaneously one and different than Krishna. They are Krishna. But still Krishna's the source and they are the manifestation. And one who is seeking this connection to Krishna through all interactions with his energies, with an awareness of him being the source and the goal of all energies. Seeking the personality of Godhead in all circumstances, in every time, in every place, in every situation, forever. When Lord Chaitanya was at Prayag, Srila Rupa Goswami, such a great scholar, an eternal associate of the Lord from the spiritual world, came to learn from Lord Chaitanya with such a humble state of mind. And it is explained it was actually the same type of pastime that we're reading about today. Lord Brahma was hearing from Lord Vishnu about transcendental knowledge, about what is reality, who is God, who am I, what is this world, what is all of our relationships, and how can I serve and please you? And this is parampara. Sukadeva Goswami in previous verses describes, Krishna described this to Brahma and gave him all the capacity of skills and knowledge of how to create the universe and how to manifest all the different species of life within the universe. And Brahma was just praying to be an instrument to do Krishna's service. The whole purpose of the universe is to come to the realization by our own free will that there's really nothing else of any true value than to know Krishna, to serve Krishna, and to please Krishna. And in another part of Srimad Bhagavatam, where it's describing a certain interval of creation, that Brahma, when he wakes up in the morning, he kind of has to learn things again. It's just like we wake up in the morning and it's not we think that I chanted 16 rounds yesterday. We have to start our day again. What kind of service? I'm creating a place that is full of misery. And yet my only purpose in life is, as a lover of Krishna, is that everybody be happy. So this is Brahma. And at the dawn of creation, when Narada Muni is born from Brahma directly, Narada Muni is asking the same questions to Brahma about what is the purpose of life? What is this universe? Tell me about the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead. And Narada Muni is enlightened. And Sukadeva Goswami said, Narada Muni instructed my father, Vyasadeva, and the same message he has given to me. This is the setting. The greatest sages, rishis, enlightened souls, they're all gathered, and Parikshit's there, humbly giving his full attention to this message. And Sukadeva Goswami, I am simply relaying the message that I heard. It's not my message. It was given to me Vyas. It's given to him by Narada, given to him by Brahma, given to him by Lord Vishnu. And this is parampara. So when Srila Prabhupada has given us these books, which are so accessible, and he's formed this movement around these teachings, he would say, I am simply the messenger. Is there anything that could ever be as valuable as receiving this message and sharing this message with others? Literally everything else its utilization has value to the degree that it is facilitating receiving this message and sharing this message. Otherwise, it's all this illusory state of mind where we're not seeing a relationship with Krishna in everyone and in everything. When we're worshiping the deity of Krishna, we never feel, Krishna, you have everything, so why should I give you anything? Srila Prabhupada says, in all of our acharyas, Krishna comes to your home, and he comes on the altar of the temple. He comes to be hungry. He's hungry. He's actually hungry. And we don't think Krishna, you are the supreme source of Atmaram. You are self-satisfied. He is. But this is the bhav of bhakti, that Krishna's personally the absolute truth. In the spiritual world, he's playing with Srimati Radharani and all gopis and gopas. In Vaikuntha, he's in the most luxurious spiritual opulences with Lakshmi Devi and limitless enlightened expansions of devotees. Within the context of material creation, he's Mahavishnu, Garbhodak Vishnu, Kshirodak Vishnu. And yet here he is, sitting right in front of me, hungry. And if I don't feed him, he's going to be hungry. Now, does Krishna need food? No. But we need to give him food. And for our sake, he's hungry. Because if he's not hungry, it's kind of meaningless to give him food. So Krishna, out of his love, his compassion, his friendship, he's hungry so that we actually really feel the need to feed him. But at the same time, we understand he doesn't need, I need. And he's so merciful that he's willing to need just so that I feel a need to fulfill his need, which he doesn't need. It's inconceivable, I shouldn't do that. It's Krishna's pastimes. When we chant Krishna's holy names, Krishna's pleased. What are we giving him? In the spiritual world, limitless Nitya Siddhas, eternally perfected souls, are chanting in kirtan. Golokera Premadana Harinam Sankirtan. Kirtan is descended from Goloka. So what does he need me chanting japa? But that is the inconceivable love and mercy of Krishna as being our most intimate, well-wishing friend. He's within our hearts. He's within the deity. He's within everything. And yet, in relation to us, He wants us to find the supreme eternal happiness of his love. And therefore, he reciprocates with the sincerity in which we chant his holy names. Does he get something more when we chant? No. And yes. He doesn't need anything because everything is him. We offer water to Mother Ganga. Does she need that water? It's a palmful. How much water is in Ganga? But yet, Mother Ganga really, she needs the water because of her love for us, because of her compassion. We will benefit. She's flowing in this world only to help us to love Krishna. She's an Ganga Mayi, Yamuna Mayi are expansions of the Hladini Shakti, the feminine spiritual potency of the Lord. She's coming to this world to help us to love Krishna and be liberated from all illusions. So yes, she needs us to offer that water. Not that she needs it because she's lacking anything, but she needs it because she has such a personal, loving compassion toward you and me. And she wants us to be happy. O King, your questions as to how the universe became manifested from the gigantic form of the personality of Godhead, as well as other questions, I shall answer in detail by explanation of the 4 verses already mentioned. Is there any questions? Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Maharaj, when we contemplate our own spiritual life and we look at, our Guru, we look at the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, obviously we can't make a comparison, but we can see that, how these disciples of Srila Prabhupada and how they, at a very early age in their Krishna consciousness, they so quickly surrendered and they gave so much of their lives. Even those who never met Prabhupada, hardly even saw him, they surrendered so much. When we look at that, we feel that we have received so much. In comparison, we have received so much more. But still, we are not surrendered at all. We are just following the process, and we have not done much for the movement like what they did. And we are just, we are doing our service, but we are not really doing much. So sometimes we feel that really what have we achieved, after being in the moment for so many years, compared to what they did, we are really very far behind. So how do we understand and how do we derive inspiration without feeling that, we have done nothing? Hare Krishna.
It's inconceivable. We are seeing these very, very senior devotees who may have came to help Srila Prabhupada and surrender their hearts to Srila Prabhupada when they were young, 54 years ago or more. But when you really understand, it will really please Srila Prabhupada and will really please his sincere disciples when you have that same experience with each other. Among the devotees, Priyasaki Devi, your own wife, and Vrishabhanu Prabhu, your father, Kirtidev, Mataji, your mother, all these wonderful devotees, what they have done. Srila Prabhupada and my little self, we're so much appreciating what they have done in a very similar way as we're appreciating what our godbrothers have done at the beginning of our movement. Because each person is in a different situation, in a different time, in a different place, surrendering their hearts. And the idea of the Vaikuntha environment where everybody is better than me, everyone is Prabhu and I'm Das, that doesn't mean the people from 50 years ago who are still around today. It even means our peers. We have that same experience toward them of appreciation. And it really is incredible. So many of you have been following for 20, 30 years. You may be grihastas. You may be brahmacharis. Srila Prabhupada, his original disciples, they surrendered everything. But many are not so actively involved in the movement anymore. There are some, and of course, all respects to both. But for all of you to be doing your sadhana and helping our movement in various ways as grihastas or brahmacharis for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, that's extraordinary. There's only a few of Prabhupada's disciples comparative to all of them who are really as active as all of you are. And you've been doing it for so many years, into your old age, from your youth until your old age. What was your age when you first connected? Huh? And your sister, Radharani Devi, what was your age? 20. So you were the same age as all of us when we met Prabhupada. Huh? But you have been consistently serving in faithfulness for all these years. So how glorious are all of you? I don't want to make you arrogant or anything, but if you understand the spirit of what I'm trying to say, if we can appreciate you, how much you can appreciate everybody else around you, among your peers. Yes, you came about the same age, many of you, as the Prabhupada's original disciples. What year did you come, Radharani Devi? 92, so that's 32 years. Vishaka Priya Devi, what age did you become a devotee? Huh? Speak in the microphone, please.
15 years.
15. She's like a guru kuli. Amazing. And how many years have you been a devotee now?
85 to now.
39 years. Yes, so you were younger than so many of the original disciples of Srila Prabhupada, and you have been continuously, faithfully serving Prabhupada's mission for 39 years. Don't be proud. Be grateful. But we're really proud of you. And when people appreciate in that way, we understand what it really means, the Vaikuntha atmosphere, that we're appreciating each other. Because sometimes these people long ago, they did very, very great things. So they're on a pedestal of my appreciation, because it's kind of distant from, it's a different time, and they're not here. It's a different time and place. But actually, even at that time, when our movement was just starting, it's not that all the devotees were appreciating each other that much, because they were peers with each other. Some were, of course. But this is what Spirit Lord Chaitanya has given us, that we recognize and we appreciate everyone's sincere efforts. But for somebody to start our movement in another country and open it up for everybody, because that was their calling and that was the time and place that they were living, that's glorious. But for somebody to maintain an exemplary family and perform sincere sadhana and be an active, enthusiastic part of a devotional community for 32 years, or 31 years, or 39 years, that's incredible. That's glorious. It's wonderful. So I congratulate each and every one of you. And when we do think back of the sacrifices that the original Srila Prabhupada disciples have done, and some are still doing, anyone who ever did anything to assist Srila Prabhupada, we should be forever indebted to them. And that also includes within your generation, among each other. Does that indirectly answer your question? Huh?
Thank you, Maharaj. Very beautiful and balanced, because we were thinking only from disciples of Srila Prabhupada's perspective, but the appreciation of our own God brothers, what they have done, it's a beautiful balance. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
God sisters too. Prishabhanu Prabhu, would you like to speak something on this subject?
I have nothing to add, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Rohini Nandan Prabhu, would you like to speak something? This is very nice, these chairs with very senior devotees.
Maharaj, thank you for a very wonderful class today. In your class, you mentioned about focusing the quality of Brahmaji. Recently, I was just going through one purport of Srila Prabhupada where Prabhupada mentions that, earlier times people would just go and come back by evening and there will be, some kirtan at home or some, spiritual activity. He says in the purport of the second canto, first chapter. So I remember our times that 30 years back, we would have a lot of time after we come back. Like, people would go at 9 o'clock, come back by 5, and then a lot of time for other things. Even our counseling meetings would start in time around 7 o'clock. People would go back by 10. But as the years pass by now, if you see, it's no longer a 9 to 5 job now. People are struggle to maintain their livelihood also. And it's not a 9 to 5, it's a 9 to 9, sometimes late nights, to pursue their spiritual sadhana also is a struggle, Maharaj. To settle down in their ashram also is a struggle. Like, you settle down at the age of 30, 35. To get a right partner is a challenge. It's really a challenge. You.
You know better than me.
Just wanted to know, Maharaj, like, how do we approach, there are different definitions of preaching, and today you mentioned about how preaching means like, attentively hearing. At one time you told me preaching means like, make the other person make your friend and then afterwards you can convey this message. Now, how to make it relevant? Because now what is happening is that now preaching means, just first of all, trying to make them stable emotionally, maybe like that financially or like that. First you have to make them become stable. That itself is an effort. You have to spend your energy just to see that they are stable, and then afterwards you can preach to them about Krishna consciousness. So I'm just thinking that how do we go forward? I know that, simple living, I think all these things are there, but how do we really send a message across at this time, where we know that practically on the ground level, struggle all over. Hare Krishna.
Surrender to do the best you possibly can and be sincere. And we use our intelligence according to time, place, and circumstance to give the culture, the knowledge, and the experience of Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada, as our Acharya, he taught us that there's never an excuse to be discouraged. In whatever situation he was in, he somehow or other adapted in a way that he can give the pure message and the pure culture of Krishna consciousness. In certain ways, there's a difference the way a brahmachari lives and the way a grihastha lives. But in spirit, there isn't. They're both, the same essential principles are followed by both. To take shelter of Krishna's names, Krishna's message, the association of devotees. And in different places and different times of the world, we have to implement it in a way that's accessible to the people, whether a person's working 9 to 5 or 9 to 9. We adjust accordingly. Whether a person's living in Radha Gopinath or Pune Brahmachari Ashram, or whether one is a grihastha in the Ukraine, which is a war zone. They may not be able to keep the exact timings that they used to, but the principles are the same, and the essence is the same. When Srila Prabhupada said His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami to China to preach Krishna consciousness there, years ago. The standard principles he embraced and gave them exactly. But how he did it, he had to adjust according to how they were living and the circumstances they were living in. So according to time, place, and circumstance, we may have to adjust, but we're giving the same principles. The principle is devotees come together to meet for counselor meetings. The timings may have to be flexible according to a person. So we should never be discouraged. Srila Prabhupada came from Vrindavan. The culture in Vrindavan in the 1950s and early 60s was extraordinary spiritual atmosphere. And now he's in Butler, Pennsylvania. Here he was with God brothers, God sisters of Gaudiya Math. He was at Radha Damodar temple with the Brijavasis. And now he's in a place nobody in the world has ever... He's starting a worldwide movement in a place that nobody ever heard of. He's living in a little room in a hotel where nobody listened to him there. He came to a little house. It wasn't even a house, an apartment. Apartment house with a family that were eating meat and everything. He was there for so many weeks. Did he ever get discouraged? When he left Vrindavan, he was not expecting to be there. But he was giving Sally Agarwal and Gopal Agarwal, who was his only audience, really, and their little tiny children, he was giving them the principles of Krishna according to what they could receive. And then when he moved to other places, he didn't adopt the sacred principles that he was sharing, but he adopted according to time, place, and circumstance. He was never discouraged. So yes, times are changing. And what you were saying about 35 years ago when you started, when people were working 9 to 5 and everything like that, if you go back here in India, when Lord Chaitanya was here, there wasn't these big cities. Srila Prabhupada explains that the India tradition, people were in little villages mostly, and they never had to travel. They had their land, they had their cow. Yes? So from back then, if they were thinking of you, that would have been really complicated. Far more than the comparison of you then and what people are doing now. So the times are always changing. But the need for Krishna consciousness, for pure bhakti is the eternal need of the soul. And we adjust. Does that answer your question? So be enthusiastic. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada would say that the qualification for preaching is enthusiasm, not to be discouraged. He said, if no one comes to your lecture, Krishna will be happy if you preach to the four walls. Now, in the early days of Radha Gopinath Temple, sometimes it was actually easier to preach to the four walls than the kind of people that were coming. But the message is the same. Yes.
Thank you very much for the very wonderful class. And Maharaj, I am asking this question on behalf of a few devotees from Bangladesh. They have been sincerely trying to practice Krishna consciousness, and some of the young girls may be aspiring from you also. So they have been having very difficult times there. Would you like to give some message how they can keep their Krishna consciousness more fixed and their faith more strong in this very difficult circumstances?
Material world, there is danger at every step. That is the principle of material existence. Birth, old age, disease, and death. And these are the sufferings, and how they come and when they come, that varies. But to take shelter of Krishna, to take shelter of Krishna's holy names, to take shelter of Krishna's devotees, that is, in whatever situation may be there, that is our dharma, and that is our hope. And that is how we will find Krishna. Whether one is in Bangladesh at this time, where there's uncertainties and dangers all around. In certain ways, it's easier to be Krishna conscious there than in Swargaloka, which is a heavenly world where everything is so nice. But still, in either place, the process is the same, to take shelter of Krishna. And this was how our movement started. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur met Srila Prabhupada, and at that time, under British subjugation, there was a lot of unrest here. And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says everything's changing. Politically, socially, environmentally, things are always changing. But the only real solution to the problems and the real gift that is of true value is Krishna consciousness. Tate nukampam susamikshamano. This was spoken by the same Brahma that we're reading about today. When dangers come, or when pleasures come, a devotee, Krishna, I'm yours. With grateful heart, we turn to Krishna and take shelter. So every opportunity that may come to us is a means by which we could make spiritual advancement if we turn to Krishna. Krishna's in his name. Krishna's in our hearts. And we need to help each other to remain strong with that conviction. Yes, one more question. Tell them that we're all praying for them.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. Maharaj, I desire to have guidance from you. How to ingrain every cell of our body or every movement or thought, never ever to do Vaishnava offense or even any Jiva offense. You said in this class, we should never feel we are better than others. So how to ingrain these qualities? Because when we hear, we have a desire to ingrain, but sometimes the anarthas, they overpower. So, thank you.
We should always be in this state of consciousness where we're trying to improve, especially in our relationships with other devotees. The way you answered the question is the answer to the question. Thank you very much. Shall we have kirtan? Srila Prabhupada ki jai.